Forced to work from home by your employer? Laid off or feeling depressed at home? Do you want to make money working from anywhere? We'll show you how to do it from your couch. It's time for another episode of the Work From Home Show. Coming to you from their homes in Austin, Texas and Tampa, Florida, here are your hosts, Adam and Naresh.
Welcome back to another episode of the Work From Home Show. I'm your co-host Naresh Vessa with Adam Schrader, and today we have Christelle Rohaut on our show. She is the founder and CEO of Codi, an app that turns apartments and houses into work from home spaces. Really relevant. I think it's an innovative idea, and I think it's very relevant to our show and to work from home. So Christelle, welcome to the Work From Home Show.
Thank you, Naresh. Thanks, Adam. I'm excited to be here.
Let's first talk about the app, Codi. So I believe you were a graduate student at UC Berkeley when you got the idea. How did a student get this idea about kind of digitizing the work from home experience, and just walk us through the entire business plan and business model?
Yeah, so how I got the idea, I was doing, as you said, a master's in city planning. I'm very passionate about the future of cities, the future of neighborhoods, and I was working around specifically kind of housing affordability issues, traffic problems, local economies. And so something that really bothered me around that time was the fact that the rent was so high, specifically in the Bay Area, and I was juggling between 3 jobs, and I couldn't wrap my head around the fact that I was paying so much rent for a space that is just sitting empty all day long from 9 to 6 p.m. So that's kind of like how first there was the kind of seeds of this idea around how can we better utilize our homes during the day so that it can be a resource for other people and also help make extra income for the host. And then at some point I had to work from home during my program, and it was just a terrible experience. I was isolated, super distracted. I would do everything you shouldn't do in your home when you try to work from home. And after a few days, I went to local coffee shops, which were noisy and unreliable. It's very hard to focus, and you have to fight for every single thing: the power outlet, the seats, the Wi-Fi. I couldn't do it, and so I called a friend, and I worked at her place, and it was wonderful. It was super convenient. It was right in my neighborhood. It was comfortable, like the comfort of your home, but I felt way more productive than being alone at home or being in a coffee shop, and that's how Codi was born.
So whenever you talk about having your place sit vacant from 9 to 6 and all of that, do you think this is something that is only really viable in the really expensive markets like San Francisco and New York and those places, or is it something that can also be useful and can succeed in smaller, cheaper towns?
Yeah, I really think it can succeed anywhere because extra money is relative, like how much you want to make in a city like San Francisco, because the cost of living is so high, is different from a smaller town where it's a little bit more affordable to live there, but still it's an extra source of income. It's a similar model, at the end of the day, than sharing your car on tour and get around, and that's available anyway. So yeah, I do think it's extremely valuable for hosts to share their homes and make extra income anywhere, regardless of where they live, not necessarily in big towns. And the second component that is very important at Codi is the community. So it's often described as Airbnb meets WeWork or Airbnb for co-working. And most of our hosts are work from home professionals who feel isolated, and they don't, they don't mind the company and they don't mind the extra money. And so it creates a really thriving kind of co-working community within the neighborhood. And so that's also the reason why hosts join the platform, is to, have some type of network, professional network, and have some company when they work from home.
Christelle, can you tell us, would you characterize your app as kind of like the Airbnb of working from home, or like an Uber or Lyft of working from home, or both?
It's usually like people describe that as Airbnb of co-working,
Okay.
or Airbnb meets WeWork. So it's basically creating co-working communities in homes, helping people access other people's homes, because it helps, like, just create a separation between your home and your work. It helps also feeling more creative, more productive, more innovative, because you're not stuck to the same room every day that is also happens to be your home. So yeah, it's a co-working model. It's not just work from home, and it's actually work from any home type of model.
Obviously, we've seen companies like WeWork come around and they have failed spectacularly, but I think is the big difference between them and you that you're not renting out the office space, and you're rather kind of facilitating the ability for people to come in and work with others? Is that how your model differentiates itself from things like WeWork? Although I will say, I am of the impression that I think WeWork will work much better in the future, as people don't want to have big, dedicated office spaces. I think it'll be great coming then. But is the big difference between them and you right now that you're not renting out the office space to rent out? You're just kind of the in-between platform?
The biggest difference is that we are everywhere. WeWork is not. All the co-working spaces are commercial spaces, so they are clustered downtown. And what I discovered when I was doing my master program in city planning is that there's nothing in neighborhoods. Like, most of our neighborhoods in the US are residential neighborhoods. There's not a WeWork. There's no co-working spaces. It's either your home or the local coffee shop. But then you have to commute at least 30 minutes to get downtown and potentially find a WeWork. But there's been a lot of studies that show that only 7% of remote workers actually go to a co-working space. And one of the main reasons is that there's no co-working space within 3 miles of their homes. And that's where we come in. Like, we create access to workspaces nearby, wherever you live. It doesn't matter if you live in a big city, or if you live in a small town or a suburban town. As long as it's a residential area, then we can unlock access to great places to work at. And that's the biggest difference with WeWork, is that we are location agnostic. We can go in people's neighborhoods and we help them not commute. WeWork is just a different type of office. You still need to commute.
So, Christelle, why don't people just work from their own home instead of going to someone else's home?
Well, I guess for the same reason then people go to a co-working space. Like, the biggest problem of remote working, of working from home every day, is that it's very isolating. I think a lot of people experienced that during the COVID. It's very lonely. It gets very lonely, and we need other people to thrive. At the end of the day, human beings are, social animals. The second biggest problem of remote working or working from home is distractions. We talk with companies directly who have employees with kids running around, live with 5 roommates, live in a small, tiny studio by themselves, and mentally it's hard. Most people need a separation between, work and home at least a couple of days a week. Otherwise, it starts to blend together, and it creates a lot of mental health and physical health issues. And that leads to the third kind of biggest problem of work from home, which is the burnout, the inability to unplug. You don't really know when to stop, and that creates really unhealthy habits. So the reason why, people like to use Codi a couple of days a week instead of staying at home 5 days a week is that it helps create a healthy routine where you wake up in the morning, you put real clothes on, and you walk or you ride a bike, and you go to a Codi, and you find the comfort of a home, but the productivity of an office, because you are in a different space, you are around other people that are there for working, and you have everything you need to basically get your work done and be happy.
So if you're wanting to, offer up your home for people to come in, what would you need to have in your facility in order to be kind of a good workspace for your platform?
Yeah, typically people have, our platform, it's about sharing dining rooms or living rooms just during the day from 9 to 6 p.m. What we look at is natural light, easy access to the space, enough seats around a big table. so that it's comfortable for at least like 4 people. And then the basic amenities are coffee, fast Wi-Fi, having enough power outlets, and then a space for people to go get private phone calls.
Okay. What if a user is at someone's house working and they want to, like use the bathroom or, eat their lunch? How does that protocol work?
Yeah, so bathroom is always shared and kitchen is always shared as well. And then hosts define additional rules depending on what they authorize or not in their home. So sometimes you can cook, sometimes you can put your lunchbox in the fridge, but you will always have access to bathroom and kitchen on the top of the main space. Sometimes there's also outdoor space, pets, which people really love. It really depends on the host and on the space, and it's you can see that on our platform.
I was looking at your LinkedIn before we get started, and you wrote an article about how to easily upgrade your home office. Can you talk a little bit about people's, upgrading their home office, and kind of what things that you think are the most useful and important for people to have?
Yeah, I think it's very easy to forget ergonomics, but it's the basics of any type of office setup and home office now setup is making sure that you have maybe a laptop stand or a standing desk, and that your chair is comfortable enough so that your eyes are at the same level than the screen that you're looking at. It helps for the posture and for the back. And then I would say there's this kind of basic things to put in place that really helps ease your day. Water, having a water fountain really is a big plus. Having enough power outlets so that you don't stretch all your cables everywhere. Having a way also to put out your computers at the end of the day, store them away. There's like really neat little kind of laptop stands that you can put so that you don't have your computers invading your personal space when you work from home during the day. And what else? And then the coffee, obviously, Wi-Fi speed. And then some background music can help. If you could Google, home or kind of speakers, it's pretty nice, and it creates kind of a quirky atmosphere.
Can you tell us a little bit about your rollout? Because you are a startup, and I'm guessing that part of the reason we brought you on the show is to help promote the app. What cities are you currently located? Is this service meant for densely populated cities? How do you define, I guess, population as far as the markets that you target?
Yeah, thank you. We're primarily based in the Bay Area, in the San Francisco Bay Area. Now we actually talking to mid-sized to large companies that are finding solutions for their remote employees so that they have access to kind of a space to go work at together in the neighborhoods, not downtown. And that's where kind of Codi comes in. And so that dictates our expansion. The companies just directly tell us where their employees are, and we go get the supply for them, and we can open up anywhere in the US based on their needs.
So how many people are you thinking in each workspace on average? Like 4, 2, 8? And what are your thoughts on kind of an optimal size for the workspaces?
Yeah, that's a great question. On average in San Francisco, it's around 5 per space. And then, as I think every city is different. And so the houses tend to be larger or smaller depending on where you live. But typically, it's great to have at least 4 people in the space. So 4 to 6 is a great kind of size so that you get to interact with a small group of people and really connect with them that day. And it creates a productive vibe in the home.
As far as the houses, regular single-family homes, are there people in condos, townhomes, even, I guess, larger apartments who are eligible for this? And the people who own these properties, are they investors, or are they just mom and pop people who come home from work, or who maybe this is a second home? Who are the owners, and what do they do during the day?
Yeah, so our hosts can be both renters or landlords. they're not investors. They just, you and me. I'm a host as well. Anyone could potentially host, depending on the quality of the space and the amenities. And typically, what we saw is that it was really half-half. Half of our hosts worked from home, and we're there every day to host our members, and it creates a really cool community. And half of our hosts were actually working outside of their home and just left the space on the platform during the day. And it's a good way of making kind of extra income out of a underutilized living room.
Now, if you're going in, are people usually getting it just like for one day, or are people booking it for like a month at a time, 2 months at a time? Like, what kind of commitment do you have to give you in order to use the workspaces?
We are switching to a fully monthly membership model. So there's it's a tier pricing. You can be a member for $110 all the way to like $350, depending on how many days per week you want to use it. And you have access to all the spaces on the platform.
Okay, that was going to be my next question. It was going to be pricing. So right now, you're charging per day or by the hour, or how is it going? And then can you tell us the differences as you upgrade to this membership model? What is the difference between the $150 a month versus the $350 a month?
Yeah, so we used to charge by the day, and then we had also monthly subscriptions. We're going to move away from like the daily booking, because it's typically not for the use cases that we care the most about, which is like a regular remote worker who wants to have a space to go to a couple of days a week. And so now it's a monthly subscription. So it's $110 or $200 or $350 per month. And you have access to all the spaces. And 110 is you have access 5 days a month. So it's roughly 1 day a week and a little bit more than that. $200 a month is part-time. So you have access 10 days a month. And then 350 is unlimited access.
And what size, what size is the platform? Like, how many users do you have? How many properties do you have? Like, how big are y'all currently?
Yeah, so we have around 1,000 hosts on the platform just in SF Bay Area, and around the same number of members. And now we're expanding. We're going more and more towards a kind of a B2B model, working directly with companies and signing up their employees for Codi. And that helps us go outside of the Bay Area and go in other cities like Seattle, LA, New York, Austin, as well as smaller towns.
And how many employees do you guys have at the company now as a startup?
We're currently working on that sales process. With the shelter in place, the timeline is around August. So in August, we have our first enterprise pilots rolling up.
Okay, and how many employees do you have?
Oh, employees at Codi, you mean?
Yeah, Codi, yeah.
Oh, okay. We are 6 right now.
And you guys got started last year, is it? 2019?
2 years ago. I founded the company 2 years ago, yeah. But we launched the product in May 2019.
Got it. Okay. And then as far as the funding goes, I saw that you did raise a round of funding. Where are you currently in the funding process?
Yeah, so we fundraised twice. We're good now for a while. And we're planning to do our Series A in a year or a year and a half from now.
Okay, so you already have done. And who are some of the big name, companies, VCs or individual investors that you have backing you?
Yeah, one of the most famous one is NFX, Network Effects. They specialize in marketplaces that are similar to ours, where when you have more supply brings more members, and more members brings more supply, etc. Creating really strong network effects. The second big one is Urban Innovation Fund. That is pretty famous in the urban tech world, which is a small, field in the Silicon Valley, but I hope it grows more and more. And then we have angel investors that used to be at companies like Yelp or Airbnb, Facebook, Uber.
Okay, and as far as the virus and the lockdowns and the pandemic goes, I'm wondering, first off, this year, I'm assuming your business got disrupted quite a bit because people probably didn't want strangers coming into their homes. Has that been the case?
Well, we are based in the Bay Area, so we respected shelter in place. We paused operations for 3 months, and we are planning to reopen within a month from now. We put in place all the safety measures and practices necessary to reopen based on WHO, CDC, and OSHA guidelines. Our team actually followed a certified program from the OSHA to then onboard our host according to those new guidelines. So we are very excited to go back to become like live again within a few weeks from now within the Bay Area, and then open up in new markets very soon. And all that changes is like, the best practices around maybe you leave your shoes outside of the house, and you have like hand sanitizers on the property. There's like disposable cups next to the coffee machine. We reduce the capacity per space so that we can have physical distancing. And then just the most important part is to keep the windows and doors open so that it ventilates the space. And we believe that Codi is safest than any other option as a workspace because, there's 5 people on average in a Codi versus hundreds in a co-working space or in an office. And the whole point of Codi is that it's in your neighborhood. You don't have to commute or take public transportation, which is also a vector for the spread of the virus.
Yeah, I just wonder moving forward, I think it's good in that you are a work from home company, and that's where the trend is going. We started our show, the Work from Home Show, because hundreds of millions of people, maybe billions of people all around the world have been forced to do everything from home. So I think you're in the right space. I just wonder about the fear of the virus and will it ever go away? It could be this is something that could die out. It could just kind of stay on board and just slowly die out. But it's all about the fear in people's minds and whether they want to go somewhere to someone's house or just stay at their own house. I think that's going to be the biggest challenge for you.
Yeah, for sure. In the short term, that's definitely a challenge, and we're putting everything in place to kind of ease that concern, but fully respect everyone's own level of comfort for sure. And it will take time, but as you said as well, like on the long term, there's a huge change in remote working right now. With a lot of companies went remote, a lot of companies dropped their leases at commercial spaces and co-working spaces and are adopting remote work on the long term. So at some point, I hope that we could go back to more social behavior where we feel comfortable being around a few other people, and we'll be there for that.
All right, Christelle, are there any other talking points or information that you want to share with our listeners?
Let's see. No, I think we covered it all. Like it's Codi, just to summarize, is a way to access workspaces in beautiful homes in your neighborhood, and create kind of a co-working community wherever you live. And if your company is remote or going remote, feel free to introduce us. We have a solution for them. We help them, create kind of like pockets of employees going to the same locations from time to time. And at the end of the day, we are about optionality and flexibility in people's neighborhoods and following kind of the remote work boom and explosion that's going on right now.
Christelle Rohaut, she's the founder and CEO of Codi, an app that turns apartments and houses into temporary, affordable work from home spaces. The website is Codi.com. That's CODI.com. Codi.com. Christelle, thanks so much for joining us on the Work from Home Show. The app certainly is relevant, and I think I might want to try it out or test it out whenever it does hit my area in Tampa Bay. I'm sure it's probably going to hit Adam's area in Austin sooner than Tampa, but I think it's something just worth trying out. And maybe it could turn into something really, really worthwhile. So thanks for creating this, and we wish you all the best with the app.
Thank you, Naresh. Thanks, Adam. Thanks for your time.
And for all our listeners, go to workfromhomeshow.com to find all of our previous episodes, not just with Christelle, but we now have over 50 episodes. So check them all out at workfromhomeshow.com. That's workfromhomeshow.com. If you have any questions for us, hello@workfromhomeshow.com. hello@workfromhomeshow.com. We'd be glad to answer your questions on air like we've been doing since the start. And until next time, keep on working from home.